Have you ever read a book with a sadness so palpable that it sticks on you like a second skin? And no matter how hard and how well you scrub, you just can't get it off? That is me with What It Means When a Man Falls from the Sky by Leslie Neka Arima. Hello, everybody. Noria back again. See, this smile on my face is not really the truth because I just finished a book that saddens me. A book with such deep wells of pain and sorrow and grief that I don't think I'm going to be reading anytime soon just because I don't think I can cope quite well with reading it again, at least until I'm in a better space mentally. Prior to 2 years ago, I was not a big fan of short stories. I felt that they did not have enough depth for me to be able to understand the worlds or the characters, and that I could never connect with them because I always felt that they were going to be too flimsy. I know, younger me was an idiot. Is anybody surprised? Then I read a book that changed everything I thought I knew about short stories. It so affected me that it rose to easily becoming one of my favorite books of all time, and the writer easily became one of my favorite authors of all time. And I've seen this book around for a while. The organization I worked for did a literary event, and this book was nominated for a lot of prizes. This book, one of the stories, the lead story, What It Means When a Man Falls from the Sky, actually won the British Commonwealth Prize. So this is an amazing book. It's it has everything: contemporary, a bit of fantasy, a bit of sci-fi, a bit of dystopian, a bit of mythology, all woven together to tell a story with a central theme, or rather with several central themes that just bleed into each other, all wrapped up with this skin of sadness. Spoiler alert, none of these stories end happily. Every single one of the story is heartbreaking. It would break you into tiny little pieces, and just when you pull yourself together and read another story, you're broken all over again. This was a story, this is a book that broke me, that has been breaking me since I started reading it 2 days ago until I finished it today. And wow. I'm currently participating in the Yo Witchathon and 12 days of Readathon and the Christian Longathon. So yes, December is a very book busy month for me. But this book I'm reading for both the Yo Witchathon and the 12 days of Readathon because both of them have prompts that involve me having to read a book that I was gifted by a friend. And this is a gift I will forever cherish, although it's not a gift I will read often because I repeat, it's a sad book. It's a sad book that deals with so many different themes about the ties that bind us and how they usually bind us to people around us, from our families to our friends to our lovers to our siblings to those who we marry to even strangers and those we work with, and of how those ties are sometimes pulled taut by those we're connected with until they snap, leaving us unraveled and broken. It's a story that talks about how society just seems to demand and ask so much of girls, of how society prizes the way girls can keep secrets and how it uses that against them to the detriment of those girls who should never have to keep such a heavy burden in the first place. It's a story of how parents who are meant to love and protect us can sometimes be our biggest enemies, all in their bid to turn us into something we are not, and how, in trying to satisfy and make them happy, we lose some of who we are along the way. It's a story of how those we love take so much from us until there is nothing left for us to give. This book, like I said, is filled with so many amazing stories, but so much pain and sadness, and it does deal with some pretty dark issues Like there's murder, there's abuse, there's infanticide. You would you will feel every bit of this book, and it is such a quick read, only about 198 pages, but every story is so weighty. And you always can tell the skill and expertise of the writer, because each short story in this collection is so perfectly done that you understand the characters, you connect with them, you know who they are, and you fall in love with them, and you feel their aches and their pains, even though she pulls it off in just 20 max 25 pages. Some of these stories are as short as 10 pages, but you still feel it, and that in itself is so beautiful. It speaks to her skill as a writer and her mastery of her writing. Her use of language in this book is so vivid and so beautiful and so amazing to read. I loved it, especially when it came to the fantasy, mythology, dystopian slash sci-fi aspect of these books. The funniest about it was that when I started and someone had told me, oh, these were the stories and all of that, I guess that I was going to be most in love with the fantasy, because you all know me, I love me my fantasy. And then I thought that, okay, I would also be in love with sci-fi, because I also love sci-fi and dystopian fiction. But the interesting thing about it was that I have 3 favorite stories in this book. Yes, I'm sorry I could not pick one. I have 3 favorite stories in this book. 2 of them are contemporaries, and one of them is the mythology, and I love them for different reasons. The first favorite story of mine in this book is Light, which is all about how the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and how parents, in their bid to help their children, in their bid to help their daughters, end up breaking them and dimming their light, just so that they can fit into a society that they should not actually be losing themselves to fit into in the first place. The second favorite story of mine is What is a Volcano, which is the mythology story. And it's all about how really small men resent and fear the power of strong women, and how really small men act out against these powers in a fit of jealousy and resentment and anger, and how women, both gods and humans and demigods alike, pay for this anger and this resentment and these actions taken by small men for generations and generations. What is a Volcano is a beautiful story. Beautiful. And my last favorite story in this collection has to be Redemption. It's all about a girl who, one would think, based on her class in society, would have learned to adapt, would have learned to be quiet, would have learned to be invisible. And she refuses to be any of those things. She rebels, she fights, she's mouthy, she's outspoken. She's everything the protagonist through whom we see her wants to be and isn't. And that's another thing that this book has. I love the fact that there were 2 protagonists who were queer. And although one of them was more openly queer in the sense that she had a girlfriend and all of that, she spoke about her. The other one was an adolescent who really did not put a name to what she felt. But if you read between the lines, you realize that what she felt towards Mayowa was both admiration and attraction, which I enjoyed. Now, one of my favorite lines in this book is from this story, and I think it captures, or it tries to capture, part of the sadness that permeates the entire book. Of course, it doesn't capture the grief, because to do that there would be spoilers. But here she says, she was just as powerless, another daughter being sent back to her mother in disgrace. My fangs felt foolish under the glare of this truth. Girls with fire in their bellies will be forced to drink from a well of correction till the flames die out. And I just found that so sad and so true to the numerous women and girls that featured in this book. My least favorite story in this book has to be Second Chances. I didn't really feel that much connected to it. Like, I enjoyed it, but I think it was my least favorite of all the stories. If I was to rate this book, I would rate it a solid 4.75 over 5 stars. And the only reason why it's listed at 0.25 is because of Second Chances. But I definitely love this book. I definitely enjoyed this book. I would definitely read this book again, not anytime soon, because I think I have to be in the right headspace to deal with all the grief and sadness and pain in it, but definitely would always recommend. And that would be all for today. Please let me know if What Happens When a Man Falls from the Sky sounds like the kind of book you would love to read. I make new videos every Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I will see you soon. Bye.